So first of all, welcome to Partner Tech Connect, and this is the official launch in this fiscal year. Um, so this is a engineering-led program for partners. I'll take a few minutes to take you through what is this program all about, and then we can switch the gears, and then we can help giving you more insights about Cosmos DB. The partner acceleration program is basically divided into two different engagement types. First engagement is breadth engagement, where Partner Tech Connect is the only motion. And Partner Tech Connect has many things in the buffet. How to get started? You can just go to ak.ms/cosmosdbptc and you can register yourself. You have already done that. That's why you are here. This is one-time registration. All the goodies coming under this community program will be available to you after this registration. So no more registrations required. You will get all the invite, all the goodies about this community initiative. So let's talk about it. What are the benefits you will be getting with PTC? We have already created a Q&A community, which is active now. You can feel free to log on. I'll share the link on the chat window. You can take a look at it, and you can start posting all of your questions. Now, if you post your questions there, we'll get the intimation about your question and we'll try to answer ASAP. All the technical members of our team will be part of this particular community, and they will have information about if you are posting the question. Second aspect is when you have question which you can't disclose publicly, those are related to RFP and RFP questions. So you would like to have a one-on-one chat for us. So we have a dedicated channel. You can drop us an email onto that channel and you can put all of your questions there. We'll be more than happy to respond to you. So development question, use Q&A community. For private questions, please use RFP, use this particular channel. I'll share that information with you shortly. Monthly Brownbag sessions, which is you are in currently. We are doing in last Thursday of every month, and this is going to be available throughout this year. Plus, it's going to be a long-term engagement. It's not going to be a shorter term or fiscal year based engagement. We are hoping that we'll be having engagement spanning to multiple fiscal years as well. So that will be able to give you a better engagement experience. Any certification related questions, please use the channel and we'll be happy to take it up. So if you have this question, feel free to post it here. As I said that any event we are planning, because you are already a registrant of this community, you will be getting all the invites. So we are planning hackathons. We are also planning a quarterly deep dive technical sessions in multiple time zone. You will start getting the invitation for those as well, depending on your country. I think you have specified the country. So this is going to be a area specific, local specific. We are trying to see if you can also have some translations for non-English speaking countries. So this is going to be there. Apart from that, you will see some demonstrations. So today we have some demonstrations today. And we are also going to have partner advisory board. It works in both ways. For example, let's say if you have identify a gap in the product and you would like to build, or you have already built a reusable IP which can fill up this gap, we'll be happy to take this up, evangelize it, and can give you some more insight accessibility so that you can basically integrate well. Or if you have suggestions in terms of features or anything you have, and you would like to participate in private preview and design discussion, etc. That's where the opening is there, so we can onboard you onto partner advisory board as well. So these are by default community initiated goodies. Monthly workshop has this agenda. I think you have already received email from your Spock. That email also have this information. So we are going to have next month. Today we are going to have Cosmos DB plus OpenAI. Next month we are going to have MongoDB v4 and then PG-SQL and so on and so forth. What are the benefits we have for depth engagement? So depth engagement program is basically you will get the PM Spock as well as you will have. So basically, first of all the goodies of Partner Tech Connect you will have. Second thing, you will get the help in GTM. So if you have existing stories, we'll be more than happy to publish those stories, as well as we wanted to invite you for video and conferences, etc. This is something that going to be a programmatic engagement. So as soon as you are ready, you have the story, please send it our way, and we'll be happy to start the process around it. And then of course we'll have a partner showcase so that you can showcase to our internal feed, means Microsoft sellers, so that those sellers can actually evaluate if their customers requires such kind of solutions. And I've already shared about the RFQ questions, and you already know about partner advisory board as well. In order to work closely with PG, because depth engagement means that you want to work with PG closely. So our PM Spock will be nominated to the partner, and we also ensure that we have our dedicated sellers called GBV. Those will also get aligned to you, and they can evaluate and can share you feedback from a customer's perspective, whether this offering is something readily accepted by a customer or they have some feedbacks around. This is the outline of a partner acceleration program for depth engagement. So we have some details around, some data ingestion credits will be there. So we have AMPP, ECIP, etc. Programs will be there, which is basically precisely incentives available. And it's case to case basis. It's not that blanket availability. It's depending upon the size of opportunity, cross the use case, etc. We need to look into it. We are going to have continuous engagement. So we are not going to isolate our engagement. We ensure that your existing Microsoft Spock will be aligned and will be working in tandem with them. Not only from a PDM, PTS standpoint, but we also align ourselves with CSA and GBV, which are basically sellers at the customer side. What we need is one active opportunity where you are already working on or you already have worked with. And just make sure that you are agreed to all the goodies we are sharing. So GTM or co-sell, etc. And ensure that you guys have technical expert within your organization. So this is a high level overview. These are the links. Once you get started, you're already there. This is a link to technical community, and this is a DL for private questions. So you can use that. Okay, and why this program is important? Because a lot of people are looking at Cosmos DB right now because OpenAI right now is very hot, and everyone wanted to utilize OpenAI, but right now they have a requirement to have something which is already pre-built or pre-packaged. Cosmos DB is choice of database for OpenAI, and once we have my colleague Sandeep Nair speak about, you'll get more clarity. But there are three things which are very critical here. First is Mongo migration. So we have Mongo vCore is available. So this Mongo migration offering is something that's very important. That's one. Second thing, we have a PG SQL API included in Cosmos DB portfolio. Means that any RDBMS or PG SQL implementation is there from on-premise, they would like to move. Migration opportunity is something that you can take a look at. Third, which is of course OpenAI portfolio, where you wanted to provide any offering to customers on OpenAI. Fourth, which is last and super critical for NoSQL space, where you have many use cases, which includes like reward use cases, retail use cases, healthcare use cases, finance use cases, where you wanted to bring Cosmos DB into the picture and wanted to provide a better response time. You can utilize Cosmos DB from that standpoint. With that, I'll switch the gears and give me 1 second. I'll present the slides from Saranya Sriram. She's our Asia Pacific lead for Cosmos DB and also owns the charter of partner development. So I'm just presenting. Give me 1 second. Okay. So you already know that Microsoft is a partner-driven organization and always be there. So this guy is very clear about it. Whatever messaging he has about the partner, everyone live up to it. So we have few. So what is the vision we have is basically the scale, and we wanted to make sure that we scale, and the only way to scale is basically to leverage partner ecosystem, which we already have, the fantastic set of partners we have. What is our mission is we wanted to make sure that migration/modernization opportunities is something that we can grab, and we can seek your help to we can help you to seek your help. We have offering for all the type of partners: GIC, GSI, industrial line ISVs, MSP, CSP, advisories, or local SIs, as well as regular SIs and migration partners. There are some channel partners who would like to do SI work. That's another area we are also open for. Cosmos DB is a massively scalable application. It has a scale-out model, and it can give you the guarantee towards performance. So let's say if you're designing a microservices-based application, you can have isolation in terms of individual microservices based, and it can have elasticity without impacting other microservices at all. We have seen that a lot of people already using Cosmos DB for cloud native apps, where it is super critical to have a better experience. Our adoptions, which I have extracted from the research, this is something that we have. So right now, DBS services is super critical, and growth is phenomenal, is what is expected. And business to business ISV apps is something that's actually going to pick up big time. And last not the least is basically migrating OSS NoSQL database, and that's what actually I explained earlier as well. Cosmos DB give you the full-blown package. So and my colleague Sandeep Nair, who will be talking about Cosmos DB OpenAI combination, he will speak about the details. On the high level, Cosmos DB will give you best of the breed in NoSQL space, because we not only tell you, hey, we have this capability, but we assure you with the SLA guarantees. So performance, so writes, reads less than 10 milliseconds is a guarantee for NoSQL API. We have 5 nines, and those 5 nines availability is also applicable there. Last not the least, we have real-time analytics with HTAP. So we have Synapse Link capabilities, which again complete the full scenarios. This is our industry portfolio, and you can see that we have a good amount of spread across multiple multiple industries, and maximum scale is coming on to our platform right now. Who is using Cosmos DB? Microsoft Teams, Walmart, Barracuda, United Healthcare. These are very, very, I'll say less number of thing. It is just three or four names, but we have many names in our portfolio who are using Cosmos DB, Azure Active Directory, first party services. You have a lot of others, customers using us a lot. And this is the high level portfolio. What are the nosql use cases people are utilizing us? Blindly, you can go ahead with Cosmos DB if you need performance. If there is a real-time requirement is there, go ahead and use Cosmos DB. What are the top investment areas for Cosmos DB? We have reliability, Peter. We have CMK coming up, and we also have per partition failover and active passive reliable failover. We have a very specific focus on partners, as I said. So we are bringing all the things which are hampering any partner to come on board and develop solutions on Cosmos DB. OSS migration is something that's also super critical for us, and we have developed a assessment tool from Mongo. So before you get into the discussions of migration, you execute the migration assessment tool, and you will get the crystal clear report that what are the challenges you will get, or you will not get any challenges, so that you can have a discussion in real-time manner. Cosmos DB as database for AI is ChatGPT is running on Cosmos DB. OpenAI uses Cosmos DB right now, and they are using us because of the elasticity and the guaranteed performance we're bringing on the table. And this is our PGSQL API, PostgreSQL API, which is truly scalable, distributed, and has open source content. So it is 100% open source. In fact, first they commit onto the open source repository, and then they release their own version. So it's 100% compatible with open source SQL. With that, I would like to hand over to Sandeep Nair. And in the meanwhile, Sandeep is sharing his screen. I wanted to take 2 minutes for any questions you have.
Hi, Manish. Should we put the question in the chat, or we can ask questions in this meeting?
Yeah, please use the chat, and I'll be happy to answer the questions on the chat as well.
Yeah. So just on one thing about the presentation that you have made, actually, the SLA guarantee of less than 10 milliseconds, that is applicable in the case of point reads, as far as retrievals are concerned, right? Not for cross-function queries.
Okay, actually your voice is simple, but let me address this question onto the chat. Sandeep, are you able to present this?
Hey, Manish. No, I think my share button is disabled. So can you give me permissions?
Okay, for 1 second, let me do that. Can you check now?
Okay. Yeah, I think I can. Thank you. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So welcome everyone. I'm Sandeep Nair. I'm a PM in the Azure Cosmos DB team. And today I'm going to take you through a session which is going to talk to you about how to use your data with Azure OpenAI. So when we talk about your data, we're talking about domain-specific information, proprietary documents, private information that you have in your own database. It's not going to use the data that OpenAI scraped from the internet and used for its training. So the intention is creating apps that are using your data, but the large language capability that OpenAI comes with. Please feel free to stop me, ask any questions. I'm not watching the chat right now, but I will answer those questions once my demo is over. So what are the different scenarios in which you can use Cosmos DB and along with AI? So again, these are written in certain order. The most basic sample would be that you're using Cosmos DB as a log store where you're just storing information from whenever you're doing a, let's say, OpenAI based chat, you're just dumping the data and storing that information in Cosmos DB. That's the most basic use case. Next use case, a little more improvement done there is that, okay, we are building a chat application. We are using the data that was stored. We are using it to summarize it. We are using it to build context. We're using it to do prompt engineering, and then we're sending it to OpenAI for getting contextual responses. Those are two use cases, but in both these use cases, if you see, you are just using OpenAI as a chatbot. The only information that you're storing in Cosmos DB is historical information or contextual information. But in this case, it's still not responding using your information. So if you are, let's say, a healthcare service provider, and you're creating a chatbot which talks about your policies, about the customer's personal information that is stored in the database, these examples cannot handle that. That's where the RAG pattern comes into play, where you can now create a chatbot which not only is smart, can interact with the user in natural language, but it can also use the data that is stored in your database. It could be the profile information of the customer. It could be the rules and regulations of your policies. It could be anything. It could be the product information. It could be using any of those information and then generating responses using your data. Of course, you can also extend all of these by using image recognition and vision and other stuff. So these are the two or three use cases where you could use Cosmos DB and OpenAI together. So why Cosmos DB? I think the slide was already presented by Manish. When we're talking to OpenAI or we're talking about smart applications, user experience is paramount. We want to make sure that the responses are fast. We want to make sure that we are able to store different kinds of information. So schema-less is a requirement. People could be working in the language of their choice or the API of the choice. Some people like to work in Mongo, and so you have different API form options available. We also have different SDKs available in different languages, so that gives you flexibility from a developer, a productivity angle. Cosmos DB is globally distributed, so these apps could be available anywhere, and you could be, because your database is also distributed, you will get the best response time because of the closeness to the customer. The responses that are stored can be analyzed almost in real time using Synapse Link. So you could use a Power BI dashboard or some kind of analytics or machine learning to further analyze the responses that are being collected and then further improve on your business process. So, and again, these are the native benefits of Cosmos DB. These are not specific to OpenAI, but when we interact with OpenAI, these native benefits become paramount, and you will see that this just improves the customer experience. So let's understand how, when we say smart application, OpenAI application, what do I mean by that, and how is it any different from a regular application? When we talk about a regular application, the standard way that we have all been developing applications is that there is a user. The user provides an input in a structured format. And when I say structured format, I mean either it is a form, it could be a web form, it could be a mobile form, it could be a console application. Even in that case, you are providing input in a structured way. These inputs are converted into, again, some queries. It can most probably a SQL query. They send to a database. The data is generated in the data set is pulled out of the database. That is again converted into some result format, again a structured format, and painted as a report. And again, this report can be something on the screen. It could be a paper. It could be mobile screen. It could be a console application. But overall, if you see this process, it's all structured. You give input in structured way, you process the structured data, you generate some data, and then again convert it into structured output and show it out. Now, when we talk about smart applications or OpenAI enabled applications, we are talking about natural language enabled applications, which you are interacting with the application as if it is another human being. You don't have so. The input is provided in natural language, the output is coming in natural language. So instead of it, so that's why we're calling it a completion also. So the challenge here is, how does the system understand what you're asking for? How does it get the data? How does it process it? And that's what we're going to discuss here. So if I were a user, I give an input and that input was directly sent to the large language model, then this would be like the chatbot application that I talked about as a second example of use case, where your question is directly sent to OpenAI. It uses the data that it learned during training and gives you a response. And this is similar to the openly available chat.openai.com application. Here, the data, it is not using your data, it is just responding to what it was taught during training. The challenge is now I want the model to interact with my data and give responses either using this data or using only this data. So both are possible. It all depends on how you want it. So let's look at how you do that. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to use the RAG pattern. And what basically RAG pattern tells is that when you interact with the large language model, you supplement it with additional information that you're going to use. So along with the query that the user provided, we also have to provide some data to it. Apart from the data, we also provide some prompts, which are nothing but instructions here. Now, these instructions tell the large language model how to use this data and how to use the user's input and process it. So you may call this, let's like the business logic. This is the data and this is the query. So the query, the data, and the business logic go together. They are provided to the LLM. The LLM uses it and provides a response. So the challenge here then is, OK, this is easy because this is just business logic. We'll see how this is provided. The query is provided by the user, but how do I get the data? Because this is not a structured input. How do I figure out based on the structured, unstructured natural language input here? How do I figure out which data is relevant and how do I identify that? And that is where our vector search comes into play. So what we do here is that we take the user's input, which is a natural language, we convert it into a vector. And when I say vector is nothing but array of floating points. We store it, we use it to search in our database. And that database using a vector search, and then that vector search would give me the items that are relatively close to this vector. And that is how I find what is relevant information. Now, this blue box that you see here is my database. It could be a single database or it could be multiple databases. If you have a vector enabled database, let's say like a Mongo vCore, then you could use a single database. But if you have a database which doesn't have vector search capability, for example, the NoSQL database on Cosmos DB, then you can use an assistant database for doing vector search. And what we suggest is for NoSQL, we use Azure Cognitive Search as a vector database. So these two databases together provide me a mechanism by which I can get the data from Cosmos DB and provide it to the large language model. So when I say vector search, it's just like any other search that you do. But the difference in this vector search is that you are looking for items that are close. So distance is being measured. So when we talk about a vector is a point in an n dimension. So when we store vectors and then you do a vector search, it is able to find the vectors that are close or in distance. So you can pass a parameter and say how many items do you want to find, and it will go and find. For example, you say 5 as a parameter, then it will find the 5 items which are closest to the supplied vector. And then those vector, then you can get the IDs of those items from cognitive search, and you can pass it to Azure Cosmos DB NoSQL database, and then you get the real data, and then you take the data and provide it to the LLM. So that's the flow that we are going to have. So it's a little different from your regular application, and this is a single iteration that I'm showing. These iterations can be put into can be made nested to make it further complex and get data from multiple sources and make this whole process far more efficient and effective. So with that, I will move on to the demo. If there's any questions, again, I'll be happy to answer them right now, and then or like you can wait till I complete the demo. Okay, since I don't hear any questions, I'll continue. So, sorry. So for doing that, I have this application here that I'm going to demonstrate. It's a small recipe application that I have built just to demonstrate how to do RAG pattern, how to interact with Cosmos DB using for RAG pattern.
So what? Sorry, Sandeep, just a question Anil has said is what is vector? If you can just share.
Yeah. Sure, I will. As part of this demo, I'm going to show you a vector and maybe I'll explain how the vector works. Sure, thank you. So what we're going to do here is we have the application that has got a database of recipes, and we will interact with that database of recipes and see how we can interact using natural language using OpenAI. So to start with, at this point, we have 0 documents in the database. So you can see that 0 vectorized recipes and 0 non-vectorized recipes. That is because my Cosmos DB is empty right now. It doesn't have any information. So what I'm going to do as a step 1 is I'm going to upload some documents, and I'm going to select the option number 1. And once it is uploaded 13 documents as recipes to my Cosmos DB, and I have them as non-vectorized. So let me just refresh Cosmos DB and show what happens. So you can see that there are some 13 documents that have been created. They are very simple JSON files. Again, this could be any JSON structure that you would want. I have created my own JSON for storing recipes here. So, and there is nothing special here. This is just a regular JSON document that has been uploaded, just like any other workload that you build. So nothing different about it till now. Now is the time when we start making changes, because at this point, this is a regular JSON document. It cannot be searched using vector search. And for doing that, I need to vectorize this document and store it. So that's where I am going to use the second step from my application, which is going to do vectorization. So when I do vectorization, what it is going to do is it's going to pick each document from Cosmos DB. It's going to vectorize it, and it is going to store the vector in Cosmos DB and also store the same information in Azure Cognitive Search for doing vector search later. So to answer your question, what does a vector look like? I'll just refresh the screen, and this is what the vector looks like. This embedding is a vector. It's an array of floating points. What is the logic of generating the vector? Again, that is a very complex subject, but you don't need to worry about how to do it because OpenAI does it. So OpenAI has got 2 endpoints. One is an embedding endpoint and another is a chat completion endpoint. So if you call the embedding endpoint and provide it some data, it will automatically generate this array and give it to you, and you just have to store it. We will not get into the concept of how a vector is generated, but as a concept, just like a vector is array of floating point, and the simplest vector could be a point on the screen which has got X and Y coordinate. So if I have to say what is the difference between 2 points, I can calculate it and say this point is closer to my reference point. Similarly, in a vector, it is a point, but in an n-dimensional space. So each of these is showing the dimension. So there are many dimensions here. So and you can calculate the distance between these points using vector search. I hope I answered your query. Now, what we have done here at this time is we have converted our data into an vector, and that's stored as an array here. We also have the same information as Azure Cognitive Search. And now our data is ready for vector search. And that is why I can start interacting with my data using the third option. So I'm going to say, let's say I want to drink something hot. So I'm going to say I want to drink something hot and see what. And let's say what the model does. So when I say I want to drink something hot, what it is going to do is it's going to convert it into a vector. And it is then searching my database and saying, OK, based on the whatever you typed in, we feel that chai or coffee are the two options that are close to you. And it is giving me an option to say, what do you want to drink? So I think I like chai more. So I'll just say chai. And when I do that this time, the information that I have given is much more clear. So it's going to look for the recipes. You saw that it is looking for 3 recipes using vector search. And then OpenAI decided that I actually like chai. So it gave me the chai recipe from my database. So now you may ask, what is so special about this? It is a keyword based search. I could have done the same thing using keywords. Why should I use OpenAI here? Very correct. If for the example that I said, you could do it using keywords better and this is just like any other search engine. By providing more keywords, by doing a lot of SEO kind of activities, you could have done this activity. But the fun part starts now. So here I don't need to actually look for whole recipes. I can ask questions about a recipe also. So for example, I may say, so I am not asking for a recipe here, but I'm asking some doubt that I have. And it not only gives me and it gives me a response based on my query. So I'm now interacting with this application as if it is a human being. I'm asking a question about, do you use a saucepan? I could use all kinds of questions and say how much milk and how much tea, and do you put milk before tea or tea before milk? And it will refer to my recipe and give me a response which is most appropriate to the question that I used. So that's where the difference comes. Now, also in this application, let's say I ask another question and say how to make now I want to know how to make pepper chicken, and it tells me that it didn't find pepper chicken in the repository. That is because I instructed the large language model to not provide a recipe which is not there in the database. So not only is it referring to my data, but it is only referring to my data. So like I said earlier, it's up to you to decide if you want to use it as the database or if you want it just to use as supplemental data. Both are possible. It all depends on the instructions that you provide to the large language model on how to interact. So let's understand this, let's just go through the code and see how this is done. So let's go through each of those application services that we have used and see what each of those applications provides. So the first application that we have is, of course, Azure Cosmos DB. Again, here we are just using the Azure Cosmos DB to store our data, retrieve our data. So you have a lot of operations of get data, set data, bulk operations to store data, etc. But again, this is regular CRUD operations that are happening. Nothing special about that here. The second service that we are going to use is the Azure Cognitive Search. This is going to use for our vector search, and for doing that, the first step that we need to do is creating a vector search index. When you create a vector search index, you can provide different types for each field. For the embedding field that I created, I said that this is a vector, and I created a vector config here, and it has used that and vectorized, created a vector index. Now, once a vector index is created, I upload the documents to Cognitive Search, and when I upload it, it uses the vector index that I built and stores it in the index. Next thing that I need to do here is I need to search for a vector, and for that, when I do a vector search query, it will automatically use the vector index that I created, and it will, depending on the parameters that I provide. For example, I wanted the 3 closest documents that are available. It will find those documents and it will give me the list of IDs. That's what I want here. And then this list of IDs is provided to Cosmos DB, and it gets the actual document from Cosmos DB. So I use the vector search to just first to get contextual information, and then that information is used along with Cosmos DB to work with OpenAI. Now moving to OpenAI. On OpenAI side, there are 2 functionalities that are required. One is, of course, that I talked about creating the embedding, which is the vector. So you provide a data, you call the get embedding async function, and it will give you a floating point array. The second function, most important thing, is the get chat completion async. This is the one that is generating the response to my query. Now this requires 3 parameters, like I mentioned during the slideshow. One is the query that the user typed in. So, for example, do you need a saucepan while making chai? That is my user prompt. 2 is the documents, which is the JSON documents fetched from Cosmos DB. So we had used our vector search. We got the list of IDs. We sent it to Cosmos DB. Cosmos DB returned the list of documents, and we converted it into strings and provided it here. Third thing that we need is the instructions. So let's go to the instructions, see what they are. So here, this is the business logic or the instructions that I have provided. So if you remember the first case, when I said I want to I want something hot to drink, it didn't give me a recipe, but it gave me a text to say select from chai or coffee. That is because I had given an instruction that if there are more than 1 recipes, you let the user pick the appropriate recipe. You should not make the choice. So it adhered to line number 35 here. Similarly, if you remember, I asked for pepper chicken and it didn't give me a response, or you didn't give me the recipe because on line number 25, I said never refer to a recipe not provided as input to you. So you could play around with this. You can modify this to make your chatbot behave in a way that's most appropriate for you as per your business use case, right? So with this, what you could do is, so if for example, the same application you want to use, but not with recipes, but with, let's say, your insurance policy or for your HR chatbot, the only thing that you really need to change is, of course, the documents that you're going to use as your knowledge base, which is nothing but JSON files. 2 are these instructions. You change these instructions, tell the bot what to do, what not to do in native language, in English language, and that your application should be ready. You don't need to do much changes there, right? So it's pretty simple to do it. In this example, I'm using the native SDKs of each service. We also have semantic kernel based sample where there is all of the same functionality, but it's kind of made much more simpler, where you don't have to natively call the OpenAI SDK. You don't have to call the cognitive search SDK, you just create the semantic kernel and you configure it to say, okay, I want to use the chat completion service. I want to use the embedding service. I want to use the memory service using cognitive search. And you can do the same functionality in much lesser code. It's the same, output is the same, behavior is the same, just that you don't have to do the SDK for each application separately. Semantic kernel does it for you automatically. So you can use semantic kernel or the native SDK, whichever is your preference. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to demonstrate right now. I'm open to questions. Feel free to please unmute yourself and ask your questions. So I don't see anything on the chat, or I don't hear anybody asking a question. So maybe I think we can continue. Manish, over to you. Oh, sorry, I see some hand. So yeah, please go ahead, please.
Sandeep, this is Anil here. So
Yeah.
on the semantic kernel, you said that we can achieve this with the minimal code, right? So how semantic kernel is doing the data, or from where it is getting the data, where the instruction has been applied to do the assessment for the OpenAI?
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen again. You need to provide everything. It's not going to do anything automatically. So when you say semantic kernel, if you see here, I still provide the instructions here. I provided the same instructions that you saw in my other example. I provided here too. But when you configure semantic kernel, when you can use the kernel builder, you provide it and say, I want to use chat completion service, I want to use embedding service, I want to use memory storage service. And when you say memory storage, you can configure it with cognitive search. So I provide my API key and everything. So it's because I have configured it this way. And then when I say save embedding, it knows that when I say save embedding, it has to be using the memory storage and it has to store it here. Whenever I say search embedding service, it knows that I have to go to this memory service and I have to get the data. Whenever I say generate chat completion service here, it knows that I have to use the completion service here. So essentially what the semantic kernel is doing is it knows which service to use for which kind of calls. And if you have configured the service using the kernel builder, then it will make the appropriate connection and process the data for you. It doesn't have the Cosmos DB service built into it. So the data, in terms of fetching the data from Cosmos DB, etc., you still do it the regular way. But interacting with cognitive search, interacting with OpenAI, doing some kind of file activities, etc., it's basically just a simpler way of doing it. And they have, based on standard practices that are there are some shortcuts or methods created that will do that work for you.
Sure. Thanks, Sandeep.
Welcome.
Perfect. Thanks, Sandeep. Thank you so much for sharing the session. Now let us switch the gear and let's talk about something which is the recent addition. So we did a lot of elasticity features enhancement onto Cosmos DB, and this is the list of the features. So we have serverless, and serverless means that, let's say if you wanted to develop an application which needs 0 to 100. So they may not have consumption, but when they have consumption, they wanted to reach to a certain point. And it has like seldom consumption. So we have serverless offering. Previously, it was limited to 50 GB of storage, but now we have increased till 1 terabyte. We have hierarchical partition keys. We have partition key based scale out. So Cosmos DB is an infinite scalable solution. Why infinite? Because it has a scale out strategy. And it's born in the cloud. Hence, there's no practical limit in terms of how much Cosmos DB can scale. How it does scale out is basically sharding. So every time you configure a Cosmos DB container or you put your data into it, it has it asks you for partition key, and that partition key will be used for logical partitions, and you can have as many as number of logical partitions you want. Behind the scenes, mapping physical partition and logical partition is completely our headache. um, so the requirement was there that, hey, sometime we have applications, as I think last time I have shared that this is basically coming from IC solutions where people have tenancy. So multi-tenant solutions, if you are creating, you may have tenant ID always, and then you would like to have another set of keys. So what we did is we actually created a hierarchical partition key in which you can tell us saying, hey, I have a level 0, level 1, and level 2. So let's say if you specify level 1, the cross partition or fan out will be limited to number of partitions at level 1 and 2 belong to level 0. Similarly, if you go for level 1, the fan out is limited to all the level 2 partitions belong to level 1. And if you specify level 2, then definitely there's no fan out. There will be direct queries. That's a feature we have already added. And we have burst capacity added. And burst capacity, um, I have recorded a video for, coming from the program manager of this particular functionality. Her name is Richa Gore, and she has recorded specifically for this Partner Tech Connect. And last not the least is basically ability to redistribute throughput capacity across partition for better performance. What I'll do, I'll basically share links for all of these improvements, and we'll be happy to take up any questions in our community channel. With that, I'll just quickly switch to the video. Let me reshare my screen. I think I forgot to add computer audio in my screen share, so you may not be able to see the sound, but now you will be able to see the sound again. Give me one quick second, and I'll just play this video. In fact, this video has two parts. She did explain hierarchical partition key, but we have lesser time. So what I'll do, I'll basically share the video over an email so that you can watch the full video and you can, look at it in details.
Moving to burst capacity.
I hope you guys are able to hear from the video, right? You are able to hear the audio from the video which I'm playing. Yeah, perfect.
Simply put, burst capacity is
Yeah, there is a lag. You are right. Um, why there is a lag? 1 second.
moving to burst capacity. Simply put, burst capacity is the accumulation.
Okay, let me refresh.
Previously unused capacity, which can be used.
Give me 1 second. Let me refresh this.
Hi everyone, my name is
Okay. Seriously?
Capacity, which can be used to handle intermittent spikes of traffic on your Azure Cosmos DB container. It is compatible with provision throughput, manual or auto scale. It is applicable where physical partition have small amount of RUs, to be specific less than 3000 RUs. And if your partition is idle for some time, if a spike happens, you can avoid 4 to 9s with burst capacity. So how does burst capacity works? It accumulates up to a maximum of 5 minutes of unused capacity. And this burst capacity can burst at a rate of maximum 3000 RUs per partition. So let's take an example where your partition has 100 RUs and it's idle for last 5 minutes, which is 300 seconds. So you can accumulate up to 300 seconds into 100 RUs, which will be 30,000 RUs. Now you have 30,000 RUs available as burst capacity. You can burst at a rate of maximum 3,000 RUs. So 30,000 divided by 3,000 is 10 seconds. So you can burst at a rate of 3,000 RUs for next 10 seconds. Alternatively, if you use lesser RUs, for example, your container needs 1000 RUs, then you can burst up to 30,000 by 1000, which will be 30 seconds. So you can burst at a rate of 1000 RUs for next 30 seconds, while your container's capacity is only 100 RUs. And so this is how you can utilize burst capacity to handle intermittent spikes. Any unused capacity in each second can be accumulated towards burst capacity. This is an example of metrics from log analytics where we understand the RU consumption at partition level. So here you can see that blue line indicates the provision capacity, which is 1000 RUs, and orange line indicates the used capacity at per second level. So difference between blue line and orange line is your unused capacity. So here you can see that around 5:46 AM, we are able to see that container is utilizing more than 2000 RUs, which is available because of burst. So even though the container's capacity is 1000 RUs, container is able to handle traffic of more than 2000 RUs for certain period of time because of the accumulated burst capacity on this container. Now, when the burst capacity is exhausted, the consumption goes below 1000 RUs again. So basically, this is how you can use burst capacity to handle these intermittent spikes of traffic in your container and avoid throttling. You can also see the burst capacity usage in Azure portal metrics as well. Go to the metrics tab and look for total request units preview metric and split by capacity type. Here you have two types of capacity: provision capacity, which is the throughput that you have provisioned on your container, and another is burst capacity, which is accumulated for the last 5 minutes. So here the blue line represents the provision capacity RU usage, and orange line indicates the burst capacity RU usage. So wherever you see these spikes of orange line, that's where the burst capacity has taken care of the traffic and handled the spikes. So basically, burst capacity is allows you to use these free RUs at no cost and helps you to handle these bursts of traffic intermittently without the need to increase your RUs. That's all from my side. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to add any questions in the chat.
Yeah, with that, thanks a lot. This is the completion for the first brown bag we have with Cosmos DB community initiative. I'll be sharing some details over an email, and we'll share this recording as well as some informative links which you can take over. We are also planning to have, as I said, that hackathons as well as deep dive technical workshops. You will be shortly seeing the calendar coming on your way, and happy to see you there as well. With that, thank you so much. I hope you like this format. In case you have any feedback towards it, let us know. Thanks a lot.